Hey guys, Heavy Arms 45 here. Like most situations, you have to keep things going. And this is a continuation of my stories of me being a DM for my group of friends I have now, which include Ninja Tank 25 and This Is Low Key. And I said in the first video that whenever you're making a campaign for a group of people, you have to know actually like really the problem that you need to know is what their goals is. If a character doesn't have goals, a campaign can go really flat because everybody has to have a goal. Javo's goal when he was being created was to become a dwarven defender. Which took when I first played with him, he was level 5. It took to him getting to level 11 before he was ready to become a dwarven defender when he became level 12. So it takes time to be able to get into get goals, and um a lot of people's goals that came down to it was somewhat easy, somewhat challenging. At this time, me and Ninja Tank 25 were kind of co-DMing. Like, we had a combined world that, like, one week I would DM, another week he would DM, but we tried to keep it somewhat in order. That way, if they were playing with certain characters, they could play their characters, and me and him at some point could be just like regular. We could be characters one week and be the DM the next week. Which, if you don't know what DM is, Dungeon Master. I don't know if I've said that before. So, with us being taking turns being DM, we had our own characters. He had Kale, I had Alex. Both were clerics, both were dwarves. His was a little bit more advanced than mine because mine was just like thrown together kind of thing. He didn't have the same stuff that Kale had, and his priorities were somewhat different than what Kale's were. So, but when it came to character goals, me and Ninja Tank 25 wanted to know what people's goals were to as they go through the game. Which some we got close to their goals, some we never made to the goals. It was like work to get to these goals. Um, for low key, um, they had with them being two people, they had two different goals. Flapala- Fapalodicus, defender of lotions, goal was to be able to ride upon a giant, large to giant creature, so that he could get flanking bonus, so he could always get his sneak attack, which was a good plan. I think the exact monster he wanted was an Eden, which is a huge creature, I think, that has two heads. So he wanted that creature to be able to, he wanted to ride on that creature's, between that creature's heads, and whenever someone's attacking it, be able to slide down their back in like a little seat that he had for himself, and like be able to get around the opponent and have his flanking damage. I mean, sneak attack damage. Nothing hard. And it was a reasonable thing, but I think even though since he was a rogue, that was what he looked. But as the game went on, um, he switched it out for prestige class, which I said is child dancer, and we'll talk about that later on. Um, Ariste or Arista, our catfolk ranger, she wanted a dragon to ride, and me and Ninja Tank 25, we were like, we had to talk on that one. That was one that we had, because you watch movies and stuff like that, and you see people riding dragons. Dragons are um, not very intelligent. They they basically all they do is just attack random people and stuff like that. But dragons in Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder are not stupid. They are intelligent creatures that have their own minds, and the reason they have their own minds is that they've been around for years. For her to be able to get a dragon that she would have been able to ride on, and actually be able to control, was two things that were impossible. She could probably get one that she could ride, but it wouldn't have the same it wouldn't have the same intelligence as what you would see in the movies. It would not think of her as like her their master. It would be more of like a friendship where he allows her to ride him, not that he's just her mount that she's going to ride whenever she wants to. But it's kind of like, you know, if you're a big brother and you got a little brother, you don't want your little brother always getting piggyback rides off you. Sometimes you want, like, walk. Um, and that's what happens there, because this dragon is 1,000 years old. Why is it don't let a cat folk, elf, like these creatures, these humanoid creatures that they run into, live not even half the life that they have. Like the creature that I think that gets closest to a dragon's life is elf, and they die at 700 years old. By 1,000 years old, a dragon just became an adult. Like, you're talking about a dragon has been juvenile for years. Um, I mean, like, centuries. Like, yo your granddaddy might have saw that dragon when he was 500, and he just became an adult when your granddad died if you're an elf. You know, that's was so. I'm sorry. But basically that was the situation. We're like, we trying to like explain why we can't do that, but we try to give a consolation prize somewhat to it. So, uh, we gave her to try and uh, give her what she wanted as part of the goal, just to start off a pseudo dragon, which it looks like a regular dragon, but it's about the size of, let's say, an eagle. It's something that can be perched on your shoulder. It's a fairly small dragon, not something you can fly, but that's why it's considered a pseudo dragon. It's looks exactly like a dragon, just not the same size. And it can talk, and it is considered familiar for most spellcasters, but it's something that has to choose. And it gave her a quest to where she had to kill um one of each chromatic dragon, so that it could so that it will be able, so that not it, but she will be able to have a uh adult gold dragon as someone that she can summon to ride on whenever she wants to. Like I said, time got in the way, and we never got through that, but that was a goal that we had for her. um Kale, the dwarven cleric, I don't think we ever, since he was a DM, we never talked about really a goal for his character. I think the basic goal for his character was just protecting those that he considered his companions. Because about this point, um, we've we haven't really did a lot of adventuring yet with them. Like, you had the dragon fight, and you had a couple small things we've done. Um, Most of the stuff happened when I was playing a character instead of doing DM. So we're not gonna talk about those things. Um, I'm talking about how I did as a DM. Uh, if Ninja Tank 25 won't talk about it, he has his own YouTube channel to talk about that part. Um, but I don't really remember his goals. Um, Also going with the idea of I do not remember what Genesee Guapo's goals were. He kind of enjoyed just blowing stuff up. Oh, no, I do remember now. Genesee Guapo wanted, um, because he had heard rumors of this book, but he could never find it. It's a secret tome that no one's ever found. And the tome was from Dungeons and Dragons. It wasn't even really Dungeons and Dragons 3.5, but it was offset of Dungeons and Dragons that was added on by a third party. And it was the Book of Erotic Fantasies. He wanted spells from the Book of Erotic Fantasies so that he could use them to like there's a spell in there that literally you can snap and take a person's clothes off. He wanted all those spells. And that's some stuff that I don't think anyone will want out. So me and Ninja Tank 25 never made it to the point where we let Genesee Guapo ever get to find those books. He fought a lot of stuff, but he never found those books. Oh my goodness, I'm so glad he didn't find those books. Now, Yurichi, the Ifrit, she was originally, the Ifrit sorceress. She originally, I don't remember what her goal was. Oh no, I do remember what her goal was. And her goal was something that was dealing with her backstory. Her backstory was dealing with with her being sorceress, there is your magic comes from sometimes a certain creature, and she said hers came from a dragon. Well, she basically apparently was looking for her uncle who abandoned her years ago, and she's out trying to find him around the world. That one might have been a good story, but I was never given information on the uncle or anything that really helped me to get information. I've asked about it before, but when it comes to giving me information on it, she's still putting it together. Which the point of it being a backstory was that it was done before you start playing this character. So it's a present story that is going to be a backstory whenever I get it. Got it? Good. Yeah, so we never dived into her background information. Now, Zahiri, he being a half elf magus, I don't remember what his goal was, but I do remember that he's the reason that we have a foil. When it comes to being a black blade, you have an opposite. You have someone that mission is to basically kill you. It doesn't matter who you are, what it is. There's always a opposite to you that's out there. It's not as bad as Highlander, but there's a person out there who is also a black blade that's out to try and kill you. So from his backstory of being a black blade and reading that part of the book, I decided that I was going to make a main villain out of um out of this person. I don't remember what the villain's name was, but the whole point was that they were going to go. He basically, the villain is on to go after him, but by going after him, he's going to attack the rest of the party because you can't just fight one person in the party. Most of the time, the rest of the party is going to be a part of it. So he was a Black Blade. The person that he had that was coming after him was a Black Blade also. Your Zahir used a sword cane. This person, he never knew what it was, but it was sort of this ominous person. The person would send letters to him, which I love doing. Um, I saw this on here on YouTube. This person used some unsweet tea, took a paper that they typed out or wrote out using ink, and they soaked it in a well, they put in the oven in some unsweet tea and just let the unsweet tea bake in onto it, and it gives the paper a nice brown color to it. Just don't do it too long. Uh, and also don't use sweet tea. I found that out the hard way. Um, when I accidentally used sweet tea, that was the most stickiest letter I ever made. And it gives a nice little brown color to it, gives a couple spots to the paper, makes it look like it's somewhat old, even if the writing looks very new. And when I did that, I also burnt the edges so it looked like, somebody just took a piece of hide or something like that, scribbled this on there or some, and you made that. It it was brilliant to me. So uh, the I believe that there was an attack on them by um a few by some werewolves, and on one of the werewolves, he found this letter. No, he didn't find that letter that way. They were walking through town, and a rogue used sleight of hand and slid it into his pocket. And he saw that, if I remember correctly, Zahira didn't see the person put the note into his pocket, but someone else did. And I believe it was Yurichi told Zahir that somebody put something in his pocket. And so he checked his pocket, he saw the letter, and the letter was just taunting him. And that's how they got their first villain. And that villain lasted for quite some time, throwing um different creatures at them. I'm trying to remember all the stuff that he had. He sent out a group of rangers slash um a ranger and a fighter out after them, because up to that point I had been throwing single monsters at them. So basically the big fights were always one monster by itself, which was maybe about 3 levels higher than them, and they beat it with ease. Because let's look at it. We have Fapalodicus, Defender of Lotions, Ariste, Cal, Yurichi, Genose Guapo, and Zahir. So you had 6 people. All of them were about level. Uh, it had been a few while since um they started fight, so they were about level 7 or so. Because I was trying to fast track them through getting levels, um, and so they had like, yeah, they were about level 7 when they fought these guys, and they beat them with basically no problem. And The reason I brought up that was because when you have four people in a party, the party is basically whatever everybody's level is. So since they all were level 7, level would have been 7. But with you having two more people to it, that increases the party's challenge rating for whatever they're going against. So the party's level altogether was about an 8 or a 9. So putting them up against a level 10, while maybe a little bit extreme, is something that they could live from. The cleric will be used overtime to heal people, but they could live through that. Um, and so that's how that happened. They would come into Animea. They would run into. They have a couple fights outside of town and come back, have a letter sent to him. Um, there were a couple other things that happened, which will go deep into other stories. But there was one time when they left out for a mission, and this was not one of the times where they were attacked, but it was they went to this uh, city called Natat, which it took them a while to realize what Natat was. It's something backwards, and that's what the issue was. Because I was, like I said, I was trying to make everything based off of uh anime. So Natat, or Natit, was Titan. So I tried to do Attack on Titan in this world, and when they came in, they didn't see any Titans. They actually didn't see anything. The situation when they got there was that um, all these souls were taken up. Um, I'm trying to remember who took all the souls. Uh, oh yeah, it was the villain. The other Black Blade had made a deal with a demon to um, get these souls in return for power. Now, I have to clarify on something real quick. The difference in Pathfinder and Dungeons & Dragons of a demon and a devil. A demon is chaotic evil. A devil is lawful evil. Now, y'all who have never played might not know what in the world the difference is. But that basically means that demons do not follow a strict law of how to do things. They don't give a crap about the law. They don't care what law you feel like you don't follow. They love to make trouble. They don't care about any type of rules. So you can make a deal with them, but at any time they can screw you over. So that's where that's the situation there. Um, but a devil is lawful evil. They sign contracts and they keep their word because contracts are law. They're binding things. You can't break a contract. And a demon won't break a contract, but they'll find ways to screw with you that does not break the contract. And that's kind of what happened here. The demon had made a couple extra, had did a couple extra things, but in exchange for these people's souls, the Black Blade was able to get powers to do something else that never was really brought up on what he was able to do. But they uh, came to this city, and they go to the castle. Like at the time, no one, they go through the city and everything's vacant. They're able to find mundane weapons, not really anything of value. And when they get to the castle, it's also vacant. um, they run as they're searching the castle. They run into a iron golem, if I remember correctly. And on the iron golem, it says only the king may pass, if I remember right. And so the thing says that only the king may pass. The reason it said that was because only the person who had the king's crown could get past it, or the queen's crown. Well, both crowns were in the throne room, which the party had not been to yet. But Zahiri decided, hey, I know how to deal with this. Now, believing that you know what to do is never a bad thing. But believe you know what to do based off of video games or other things that you've read is not a good idea. Pathfinder Dungeons and Dragons is not the same as you playing let's say Oblivion if it has golems. I'm sorry. I've never played any of the Elder Scroll games, so I don't know if they do have those. But Zahir figured that he was a spellcaster, and in this game that he played before, he knew that golems were weak to magic. Now, if you've ever played Pathfinder Dungeons & Dragons, you know that magic is something that a majority of golems are immune to. Magic doesn't affect them unless it's a specific type of energy magic. Like if you run into an ice golem and you hit it with fire, it's going to melt it. But every other magic it's immune to. Charming it, can't do it. Implode, can't do it. Power word kill, can't do it. Wait a minute, it has to be alive for you to use power word kill, I think. But so he walks up to the golem, tries to pass it, casts a spell on it. It doesn't work. And then the golem proceeds to beat the brakes off him. And Cal has to come up, heal him, pull him back before he gets himself killed. I don't think they took it apart, but they were able to find the crowns. They passed by. They found the trigger to turn it off. And that was kind of in that. Which, what's the moral of the story? Whenever you think of using something else to metagame, don't. Like, there are some things I would consider common knowledge. Vampires are pretty much common knowledge because you don't know whenever you'll run to a vampire. You don't know whenever you'll run to a werewolf. So those are things that I would understand if you knew the weakness to. Especially the simple weaknesses. Instead of a cross in Pathfinder and or Dungeons & Dragons, it's a holy symbol. If you have a holy symbol in front of you, they can't pass. I mean, they can't get near you. A stake, something that anyone would know, because if you run into a vampire or one of your family members you believe may be a vampire during the daylight hours, you might decide to just stab them or throw them out in the sun. Those are things that I would believe are rational reasons of, hey, I know I shouldn't mess with this. Unless you live in a place full of magic, I would not think that you would know how to deal with a golem. That's just my personal belief. And if you can give me, and that's always been my defense, if you give me a justifiable reason in game that you know about this, I'll let you do just about anything. Within reason, I have to say. That's why I say just about anything, because I know some of y'all, like, I know how to finagle my way into being able to know something. But Zahiri's player basically said that, well, I knew that it worked this way. And I'm like, that's not the same game. And so metagame is not a good thing. Don't try to metagame off what you think you know from something else, because other stuff don't get you in trouble. And that's not the first time. Well, that might be in the first time, but that's not the only time that stuff like that had affected Zahir. And with that being said, I'm gonna cut off here. The next time I'm gonna tell y'all about the last member of the team that came in and the adjustments later on that happened to her. But the character that came in that became a very interesting part of the party. And I'll catch you later.